It's just a point of being unreal how many flowers there are and how unusual they are. They're so big. Have you been?
No.
Well, it is well worth a trip.
Yeah.
It's 79 acres and we didn't even cover but a tiny portion of it.
Yeah, I've seen other gardens in here
And-
like that, but I haven't been to that.
This one is, it's all tulips and bulbs. There were lots of daffodils too.
Okay, I think it's 4 o'clock, so we'll call the Town of Somerville Planning Commission for April 15th to order. First order of business, the approval of minutes from our meeting on January 22nd, 2024. Do we have any changes that need to be made to those? If not, we'll accept them as published. Our next order of business are public hearings. The first, a petition by Brianna Kopp Minnis and Kevin W. Kopp to annex TMS number 13607020006, located at 1219 Central Avenue, totaling approximately 2 acres, currently zoned R1, single family residential in Dorchester County, and will be zoned NB neighborhood business upon annexation into the town of Somerville's municipal limits. Council District 1. Seeing no one in the audience, I will close that public hearing and we'll move on to the next. Since there's no one here, I propose that we take the amendments to the Unified Development Ordinance as one for a public hearing. There are no objections. And so be it. We'll open the public hearing. Seeing no one in attendance or wanting to speak to this, we'll close the public hearing and move on to new business. First order of new business is new street names. One street name needed, Edsel. Do they have other car names in that? group?
Apparently it took them quite a while to find one that had no conflicts.
Hmm.
So,
Is it going to be Edsel Street?
we don't know yet what the, it may actually be Edsel Circle because it is a circle road. So
John.
We should call that Edsel Rim. It would be a car thing.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the name Edsel.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? The ayes have it. Okay, we need 5 street names that
yeah,
are
this
proposed.
next one technically only needs 5, but there will be additional phases of this development. So if you want to go ahead and approve all of them, that's fine as well.
I move for approval of all of the street names listed.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the street names as listed, signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? The ayes have it. Okay, second item is the petition by Brianna Kopp Minnis and Kevin W. Kopp to annex TMS number 13607020006, located at 1219 Central Avenue and totaling approximately 2 acres, currently zoned R1 single family residential in Dorchester County and will be zoned NB neighborhood business upon annexation in the town of Somerville's municipal limits. Council District 1.
Is this property right here?
Yes, that parcel there. The ownership on that parcel, these are the heirs of
Yes, sir. They,
Zadidis and,
yes, Joan Kopp, is deceased and, her will stated both her daughter and her son as the, heirs. And they had not established a, um, person in charge of the estate yet, so we got both of them to sign it.
do I have a motion?
I
Motion,
second.
motion to approve and second. Is there any further discussion?
It seems that the neighborhood is having an evolutionary change. It seems like it's moving down the street.
Yeah.
So it's in concert with the rest that we've done before. And time for change.
Yeah, and there's, that area is, they're building storage facilities out there right and left in the county, so it's not surprisingly, and especially if they come through it, which they will eventually and widen Central Avenue, so. Okay, any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
I,
Those opposed, the ayes have it. Okay, propose amendments to Somerville Unified Development Ordinance, Chapter 2. Encroachments, Chapter 4, frontage encroachments. Chapter 13, zoning development permit.
So just to briefly introduce these changes, these are changes to address fencing that's not part of a larger project and that's visible from the right of way. Currently in our ordinance, if someone's building a fence in commercial or, multifamily and there's no other part of the project, it's just a fence, like the site's already existing. We have no requirements for that. So, whereas if they're building it as a part of a development, they have certain guidelines they have to meet and DRB approval or BAR approval, that type of thing. But if it's just the fence outside of the historic district, there's no guidelines to regulate that. And so this is looking to address that lack of guidelines. We've seen a couple of fences in the last few months go up that wouldn't have been approved if they'd been a part of a larger project. So this is to address that gap in the ordinance.
Okay, I was on this one, the section 236 encroachments. Now this says fences may encroach within minimum required setbacks up to the property lines. What constitutes an encroachment if it's on their property?
So that's encroaching into the setbacks. That's just what it's saying, that fences basically aren't subject to setbacks, is all that's saying.
Oh, okay, I see. So that's actually allowing them to build it in the setback.
Correct, yeah. Because fences are considered a structure and technically, generally all structures are supposed to meet setbacks, but this is allowing them to not have to meet the setback requirements for fences.
Okay. Yeah, do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion is made and seconded. Discussion?
I'm not sure I quite understand it yet, Jesse. Um. So with the change, it will mean that someone wanting to put up a fence has, without any other construction going on, will have to have it approved.
So this is, it addresses fences that are visible from the roadway, basically.
Okay,
So, you know, if someone has a residential lot and they're putting a fence in their backyard and it's behind the house, unless they need an encroachment permit for an easement, we don't really get involved, or unless it's over 7 feet and they have to have a building permit. This is more for fences that basically are in the front yard or the side yard that fronts the street. So that's what the 2.3.6A addresses. And this was something that y'all actually looked at some years ago. The BAR requested this change, and then,
back when we looked at that house that's on the corner of
yes.
Charleston Street and
Yes,
Sumter
ma'am.
Avenue, right?
Mhm. And so y'all actually recommended approval of this, you know, about 3 years ago, but at the time, council wasn't accepting any changes to the UDO. So it kind of got lost in that. But when this issue with fences came back up, we thought it, you know, this was the time to make this change, as well as add the section to chapter 4 that dealt with chain link fencing, basically. And then just making sure that it's in there that you do need a zoning development permit if your fence is visible from the right of way. And that's all you're doing. It's a fence.
Yeah, that came up recently on Simmons Avenue too.
Simmons Avenue and also right on Luke Street as well.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All in favor signify by saying aye.
I,
Those opposed? Ayes have it. It's unanimous. Okay. Proposed amendments to the Somerville Unified Development Ordinance, Chapter 3, Table of Permitted Uses, and Section 3.4.5E, Tobacco Alternatives, Sales Store, Chapter 15, Definition of Terms.
So this one, just briefly, we have seen, you know, previously dealing with tobacco and vape stores, but we've seen a lot of times when we told people they can't have a tobacco or vape store, they're like, well, how about CBD? Or how about, you know, another alternative? And so this is just trying to address those alternatives. In doing that, we are also slightly reducing the distance from schools and daycares and those things, because we found that we had almost zoned them out, which we are not allowed to do. So this is reducing that slightly, just to
so it still
provide
makes it,
some feasible
still makes it-
locations where they could actually be located. So that's really what all of these changes really do, is just adds CBD alternative to most of these. And then also within the ordinance, if you look at section, trying to find it, one of the sections talks about sensitive receptors, which we had not defined. And so we are also defining that as well in chapter 15.
I move for approval.
Have a motion for approval. Is there a second? Motion and a second. Any further discussion?
The question, Jesse, on under B. Yeah, what is any sensitive receptor?
So that's what we're defining in chapter 15.
Okay,
Yes, sir. That was, we noticed we did not have that definition either, and we didn't been asked that question. And so we were just using basically the standard term definition for that, but we thought it would be good to actually add it into the ordinance.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good definition too.
Yeah.
Just read it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the ayes have it, it's unanimous. Okay, proposed amendments to the Unified Development Ordinance, Chapter 9, Design Standards.
Yes, and this is pretty simple in that it is really just relating to neon tubes or LED related neon tubes and prohibiting them. Folks are kind of getting around our sign ordinance in that it doesn't address just lighting without words per se, or,
Yeah.
without images or words. They're basically lighting up their entire frontage without us being able to regulate it because we didn't have anything that specifically really prohibited it within the lighting ordinance. So this is addressing that because we've received numerous complaints about that.
Wholeheartedly agree.
Do
I move for approval.
I have a second? I have a second. Oh, yeah. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And those opposed, the ayes have it. Proposed amendments to the Somerville Unified Development Ordinance, Chapter 13, Building Permit, and Section 1373, Certificate of Occupancy Permit.
All right, so this is, we have been dealing with some issues lately where with building permits, we've been receiving let's just say less than satisfactory site plans. That we have to keep going back and forth with the applicant to try and get something that actually is to scale, that actually shows what's on the property. For us to be able to even verify that they're meeting requirements. So we are looking to require surveys for building permit applications. Now, there may still be some where it's not necessary, which is why we have that last sentence in there where we can deem it unnecessary if need be. If they're not anywhere near property lines, it's a very large lot, there's, they're not anywhere near impervious surface or any trees, then we're obviously not gonna make them get a survey in that case. But particularly with the smaller lot sizes that we're seeing in a lot of the PUDs, we are having issues with verifying impervious surface without having an actual survey. And so this is to address that. And then also as a part of that as well, requiring as-built surveys will help address impervious surface, and also making sure that buildings that need to be fire rated are fire rated. Because unfortunately, we're seeing things also not built exactly where they are shown to be built on their site plans. So. And again, both of these do provide the ability to waive it if it's deemed unnecessary.
Okay, do I have a motion?
I move for approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the ayes have it. It's unanimous.
No, I'll get coughed up. It's pollen.
Okay.
It's my allergies.
Okay, proposed.
Age, temperature, and that's all.
Proposed amendments to the Somerville Unified Development Ordinance, Chapter 14, Section 14.2.4, Notice of Violations, and 14.2.5, Failure to Correct Violation.
Okay, this one is a little different. So we have been having some issues lately with code enforcement in that if you'll notice this notice of violation, the current language requires us to issue a warning for any notice of violation. And the warning has to be served by personal delivery or certified mail. So we found it is very difficult to do personal delivery, particularly for out-of-town property owners or certified mail. You know, it can take up to 3 to 6 months to either get a return receipt or to get the mail back saying that no one would come pick it up. So in those cases, we have other ways to contact the individuals, but generally by email, or some other means, and this doesn't allow us to issue a warning that way. So this is to provide some flexibility there to allow us to issue a warning that way. And also there are certain violations where there's really no need to issue a warning. If someone's cut down a tree illegally, what are you gonna warn them about? They've already done it. They can't put the tree back up. So in that case, there shouldn't be a need to issue a warning before you issue the citation. You would just issue the citation. And so this is kind of addressing that issue with code enforcement, and then also addressing how our the wording is done on the Uniform Municipal Ordinance summons, making sure we have the correct wording in there. Our town prosecutor brought this up to us when he was looking at the ordinance, and he said we need to make sure everything matches the way state law states it, which is the Uniform Municipal Ordinance summons, and the way our actual summons reads. And so he said, because state law states exactly what needs to be in the summons, we don't really need to say that again. And then just kind of making it cleaner again with the certified mail that actually is not allowed by state law. It has to be personal delivery. So that's one reason why we're removing that portion. A citation has to be done by personal delivery. So that's kind of to address that. And then
Or
Mhm.
I don't know if now's the time to ask you this. Are you noticing an increase in people deliberately doing things, thinking that they would rather pay a fine or get reprimanded than go through a process and ask approval?
Obviously, I can't speak to people's intent. However, it does seem like we are dealing with more and more violations. And that is one reason why we're looking to make these changes. And we're also looking to make sure that we are following through with all of our code enforcement cases, because we're having cases where, you know, someone gets a citation, they pay a fine, and then they never fix what was wrong. And so
The reason I ask is because I've actually heard people say that.
Yeah. So this
And
is what
especially in
we're
overhearing
trying.
conversations where, you know, there are people I don't know, so I can't
Right.
actually insert myself in like I might if it were a friend or something.
Mhm.
I've been dismayed in overhearing some conversations about, well, I know it's against the rules, but I'm going to go ahead and do it and deal with consequences if they catch me, kind of.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I can't speak to people's intent, but we have already this year, I feel like, dealt with a lot of code enforcement violations in comparison to previous years. And they seem to be taking longer and longer to resolve.
Okay, do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
I second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. It's unanimous.
Right, I do not have anything specific under miscellaneous. Just a reminder about trainings. We have sent out a few webinars, and we will continue to send those out as we receive them. So
Not as many as the last year's.
No.
well, as
Three,
as-
maybe four.
I was gonna say, as COVID's gotten further away, they've done less and less webinars, so. But we're trying to send them out as we do receive them.
Maryland's still putting out some pretty good ones.
Yes, Maryland still has some good ones, that seem to be, addressing things that we deal with rather than,
Yeah, I
just
missed a
random ones
couple
that
that I
you'd
would
have
like
to
to-
watch because you need your
Oh.
hours. I'd rather them be ones that actually pertain to what we do. So yeah, we send them out as often as we get them, so.
I sat through the one last week on zoning, yeah, form-based
what I would
codes.
like to-
stuff. It was kind of heavily weighted in a civil rights direction, but it was, but it was still, there were some good points made. Yeah, they do
Yes, they
record. them.
do.
They're all,
I think you can go back onto their.
you can go on their
and check the
site.
Ones they are.
Yeah, and do those. But,
You can watch the repeats.
okay. Well, I was going to bring that up. Thank you, Jesse. That, yeah, that training is, I was gonna bring it up because I finished mine. Okay, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
All right, motion to second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Stand adjourned.
Mhm.